The New York Giants class of 2024 is complete, and I have the skinny on the day 2 and day 3 picks coming your way next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. My name is Patricia Traina, your host, credentialed member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for Giants Country over on the Fan Nation Network, part of SI.com. You can find our written work over at SI.com/NFL/Giants. And a special welcome to my Blue Crew community members, to my everydayers, to my newcomers. We have a few newcomers I know checked in on the site over on YouTube. And of course, everybody in between, you're all appreciated and loved by yours truly. Thank you for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And if you do watch us on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and click the little bell for notifications anytime I post a new video. And on today's Locked On Giants podcast, we got to get you caught up. Day 2, day 3 picks. We're going to talk about those, the rest of the class. And then I've got some final thoughts and some little tidbits that I'm going to share with you in segment 3. So that's going to be our agenda for today. Before we do get into everything, I posted, those of you who watched over on YouTube, I mentioned that I did not get a chance to do day 2 video yesterday because I had some news, and I will share that news with you. Today, my husband and I picked up a new dog. We adopted a new dog from a shelter. She drove in with a bunch of other dogs and, of course, with volunteers from the shelter all the way from Oklahoma. So we went this morning to pick her up. That was something we had to get up early to do. And she is in the house, quiet little dog, little on the shy side, but hopefully as she opens up, I'll be able to show you pictures. And she likes to sit in my lap. So maybe, who knows, maybe she'll show up in my lap one day as I do one of these podcasts. But that is, the reason, that's the news that I had. And I'm very happy to share that with you because I just absolutely adore dogs. And I'm so lucky to have this one and looking forward to giving her the best possible life. All right. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk Giants draft. All right. Now, coming up, I'm going on another show. I'm going to do all the grades and all that stuff. But let's talk about the picks. Now, we talked about the first round pick on Friday's show. So I'm going to do rounds 2 through 6. And we're going to kick things off with safety Tyler Nubin of Minnesota. All right. He is Nubin, I believe, was the first safety off the board in the entire 2024 draft. Now, I like this pick. And the reason why I like this pick is the Giants lost 2 potential Pro Bowl safeties in back-to-back years. First was Julian Love, who went out to Seattle, became a Pro Bowler. And then, of course, Xavier McKinney, who didn't make the Pro Bowl, but played up to a Pro Bowl level last year. So, I thought maybe Dane Belton would get an opportunity to compete, and I think he still will. But there are obviously some questions, I think, regarding whether he can hold up to the demands of the position. So Nubin is actually a guy who is a ball hawk. He played for the Golden Gophers, and he was, I think he set a school record, if I'm not mistaken, 13 interceptions throughout his college career. I believe he had 11 pass breakups total. Xavier McKinney, if you want to compare those numbers, in his 4 years with the Giants, he had 9 career interceptions, 27 pass breakups. One of the things this Giants defensive secondary was missing, in my opinion, was the ability of players to make game-changing plays. And Nubin is a guy who can do that for the Giants. So they need, obviously they need more playmakers on defense. Nubin can be one of those. He's going to compete, like I said, with Belton and Jalen Mills, but the expectation is he will probably win that competition. He's not polished as is any other rookie coming into the NFL. Still needs to sharpen up his tackles, but the kid's a playmaker. And I really, really like this pick. I really do. I think it was a good value pick for the Giants. It addressed a need. He's got a high ceiling, and I'm very excited to see what he brings to the table for the Giants defense. He's also, by the way, he's also versatile. That you can play him high, you can play him down in the box, you can play him in the slot. He's probably going to make his money in the NFL, so to speak, playing the deep safety, the deep center fielder. But the beauty of it is he's going to be able to be moved around in Shane Bowen's defense. All right, pick number 3, round 3, cornerback Andrew Phillips. This pick, I don't want to say I hate it. But this one kind of had me scratching my head a little bit. All right, let's start off with what I like about this pick. Andrew Phillips out of Kentucky, very athletic, but he's kind of on the raw side in terms of starting experience. He allowed 67% of his pass targets against him to be completed, did not come up with interceptions. Joe Shane, when he spoke to the media after day 2 concluded, said that Phillips is probably going to be, he's probably going to start outside, in the slot, and he has outside flexibility. All right, meaning that he could play on the outside. So basically, another Cordell Flott. And what I didn't like about this pick, twofold. You already have Cordell Flott. Why do you need another guy like that? And number 2, who's cornerback 2? I mean, remember, the Giants tried to get veterans to sign to play opposite of Deontay Banks. They weren't able to do that. So we all figured, okay, well, they'll use the draft to do it. I don't know that Phillips, this year at any rate, is that guy. Might he turn into that guy down the line? Possibly. But right now, that's a question that hasn't been answered, in my opinion. Now, maybe the Giants feel otherwise, that they have the cornerback 2 on the roster, a guy that they can roll with. But that's a concern for me with Andrew Phillips. Okay. So, again, the mere fact that they tried to address it in free agency kind of tells you that they weren't satisfied with what they have. And really, since then, all they've done is they've re-signed Nick McLeod, who could, I suppose, be cornerback 2, and they haven't really done much else at the position. Are they maybe looking to pick somebody up, late in the summer, which is a possibility, I suppose. But that, to me, was a head scratcher. I would have liked, quite honestly, to see the Giants flip-flop the order in which they did the defensive backfield. Maybe go with a cornerback in round 2 and then the safety in round 3. Now, I realize that would have probably meant that they wouldn't have gotten Tyler Nubin, but that's my big concern based on the activity from day 2. And maybe it's nothing, I don't know, but I'm sure I'm not the only one who has the same feelings. All right, coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to look at the day 3 prospects. There were 3 picks made, 2 on offense, 1 on defense. That's coming up right after this. Hey, Giant fans, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. They help you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but who might be open to the perfect role. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours when they use LinkedIn. And did you know that LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier? They've just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process quicker. Find out why 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring by posting your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode of your favorite Locked On podcast is brought to you by the best meal kit service in the game, Home Chef. No more having to answer the dreaded question, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? Thanks to Home Chef and their chef design recipes that are delivered directly to my door, all pre-packaged, pre-portioned. They even peel the garlic cloves for you. And each recipe, one of my favorites, Black and Mahi Mahi, comes with a full page of easy to read instructions that include customization options and pictures to guide you along the way through the step-by-step process so you don't have to ask, is that what chard looks like? I cannot recommend Home Chef enough, especially right now, because for a limited time, Home Chef is giving Locked On listeners 18 free meals, free dessert for life, and of course, free shipping on your first box if you head to homechef.com/lockedon today. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. Yes, you heard that right. Homechef.com/lockedon. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, welcoming you on in and thanking you again for your patience as we get everything settled here in the home office. And of course, we are breaking down the New York Giants class of 2024. That's right, the picks are in, the answers are here. And no more speculating, no more mock drafts. We know now who the class is. We kind of see a pattern of what Joe Shane tried to do. And I'm going to go over that. I mean, the next several shows, obviously, I'm going to talk about grades. I'm going to talk about fits. I'm trying to schedule our Locked On College hosts to come on to talk about the schools, their prospective picks. So all that is coming up. So we're going to have plenty to unpack about the Giants class of 2024. Let's talk about day 3 picks. Now the Giants with 3 picks in the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds, 2 on offense, 1 on defense. So in round 4, the Giants went tight end, Penn State's Theo Johnson. Now, before I get into this pick in particular, a lot of people are like, well, what does this mean now regarding Darren Waller? Darren Waller still has not made a decision if he's going to retire or not. I personally think, and based on what I have heard, he is going to retire. I don't think he's coming back. The Giants, regardless, they weren't going to let Waller's decision hold them hostage. They signed, all those tight ends, blockers primarily in the during the free agency period, and now they add Theo Johnson of Penn State. Now, Theo Johnson is a big guy. A lot of his physical traits bring up memories of Jimmy Graham when Jimmy Graham was in his prime, but let's not confuse Theo Johnson with Jimmy Graham. I know a lot of you are going to say, there's no Jimmy Graham. I know that. He's not there yet. He's got a way to go. So Theo Johnson, to me, still a little bit of a work in progress, still a little inconsistent. The production really wasn't there to make you say, oh my gosh. He's inconsistent as a blocker. He has good size, good play strength. His receiving ability, that needs a little bit more work, but you know what? He's got a good throwing window. He provides a good throwing window for a quarterback. He does a decent job of separating. So there's some athleticism in there. He can be a very big body target for whoever's playing quarterback. So Johnson, I think, as a rookie, I don't know how much he'll necessarily get involved in the passing game initially. I think, if Waller retires, as I expect will be the case, Daniel Bellinger will take over as the starter, and they'll try to work Theo Johnson into the mix. But they're also going to need to work one of those blocking tight ends into the mix because that's important for them to get. So Theo Johnson, 4th round. I like the pick, by the way. I mean, despite the warts on this particular pick, I do like the pick. It was a value pick, and it addressed the need. All right, round 5, running back Tyrone Tracy Jr. from Purdue. Now, Tracy's an interesting prospect, all right? He is a converted wide receiver who, oh, by the way, doesn't have much tread on his tires in terms of the running back position. So basically, he played receiver for a number of years, converted to running back, doesn't have the wear and tear on his body, which jumped out at me right away when I was, researching him. Um, the Giants, as we have been discussing now for months probably, they're going to a committee approach. Devin Singletary is going to be the lead back in that committee. And then you're going to have, guys like Eric Gray, Tyrone Tracy's going to compete. You're going to, Gary Brightwell will compete, Deshaun Corbin, and so forth. They're all going to compete for a piece of the pie of that committee. All right. Now, here's the other thing with Tyrone Tracy that I think appealed to the Giants, and that is he has kickoff return experience. And with the new kickoff return rule, Joe Shane talked about this in his pre-draft presser a few weeks ago. He talked about, maybe getting these day 3 picks who can double up and help out on special teams. That's what they did with Tyrone Tracy. All right, he's a guy who I believe he has one kickoff return for a touchdown in his career. So he could, he's an explosive athlete, can run between the tackles. All right. You just look at his scouting profile, and a lot of what they say kind of reminds you of what Saquon Barkley brought to the table. Now, again, I'm not comparing him to Saquon Barkley. I'm just drawing the similarities. But this is a guy who likes to run between the tackles. Sometimes he's a little too impatient and he's quick to bounce things to the outside. But this guy can also be a nightmare matchup for linebackers. He is, like I said, he's going to be part of a committee. The Giants have been building up that committee. In 3 of the last 4 seasons, they have selected a draft pick at running back to build up that committee. So there's flashes that you see from Tyrone Tracy. He can move the pile, needs polish, obviously. And then, of course, we've got to see how he does with pass pro. But I like this pick because the Giants really needed, in my opinion, they needed a power back. And I think he can be that power back for them in that running back committee. All right, pick round 6, linebacker Darius Muasau. He is inside linebacker, special teams candidate. He's a guy who, in his sophomore campaign, led the nation in solo tackles with 66 when he was at Honolulu. He's an Iwa Beach native, by the way, Iwa Beach out in Hawaii. So he played at Honolulu for a couple of years. Now, this is a guy, though, who the tackling, has not been consistent of late. A guy who is a liability in coverage. But, he did have one season where he had like 14 pass breakups and 5 interceptions. So, this is a guy, inside linebacker, more so special teams, I think. I don't know if he's going to necessarily challenge, for example, Micah McFadden for the starting inside linebacker role alongside of Bobby Okereke. But Muaso is going to compete, obviously, with Darian Beavers, who was brought back. So that's going to be a competition. And then, of course, we'll see how Isaiah Simmons fits into the mix. So the Giants beefing up that inside linebacker group even further. And as for that pick, it's a value pick. I can't argue with value picks because, they provide extra depth. How many times have we seen injuries wipe out position depth on this team? Too many times. So I'm not complaining about that. Now, I did see a few people reached out to me and they were moaning about the fact that the Giants picked some of these older rookies. Folks, that's the leftover benefits, if you will, from the COVID pandemic era. All right. All these super seniors were able to take advantage of an extra year of eligibility, which means they're maybe a year older than they were. I don't know necessarily that that's a big deal. I would be more concerned, to be honest with you, with how much tread they have on their tires. Right. You can have a 30-year-old rookie if you wanted, but if he's a running back and he's only carried the ball 100 times in that span, then who cares? Who cares how old he is? I just think, too many people put too much emphasis on age, making that a negative. So those are the Giants picks. And of course, we talked about Malik Neighbors on the last show. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you check it out. Now, coming up next, some leftover nuggets and thoughts about the Giants class of 2024. Please stay with us. Hey, Giant fans, we've all been there, either as a player or as a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure if you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep. Lift your head up and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friend's money as I possibly can. That's right, the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the monopoly that you love, but it's on your phone, available anytime, and comes with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress with your buddies. And there's so much to do. You can play on countless dynamic monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, and even charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put your game face on, and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or on Google Play. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, and the class of 2024 is in the books. They will be at the rookie minicamp in not next weekend, the weekend after. So that would be May 10th and May 11th. I will be there for both days. I will have observations, interviews, video clips, basically whatever I'm allowed to get. I will have that. I don't know. I don't think we'll be able to put it here on the podcast, but certainly I will put it on my social media channels, Instagram, where you can find me at Patty Traina, PATTITRAINA, over on X, and my Twitter handle is below for those of you who are seeing this on video. If you're listening, it's at Patricia_Traina. So I got you covered, ladies and gentlemen, for the rookie mini camp. So, all right. For this segment, let's talk about some leftover nuggets and some thoughts that kind of came out. In round one, I got to be honest with you, I was kind of surprised that the Giants did not go Roma Dunze. You know that I was that I was beating the drum for Roma Dunze for many reasons. I thought, taller receiver, a little better catch radius. To me, he came across a little bit more polished than Malik Neighbors. Now, I don't hate the Neighbors pick, but, in talking to some people outside of the Giants organization, scouts, and I said, what would have it boiled down to why the Giants might have gone with, Neighbors versus Adunze? And the consensus I got was that Neighbors would be a better fit for what Brian Daboll is looking to do on offense. I'll defer to the coach because obviously he knows what he wants to do, but I'm kind of curious to see how Adunze and Neighbors' careers progress a little bit. Okay. There was one trade that Joe Shane did receive, a trade offer that he did receive to move down. Okay. We all know about how the Giants tried to move up to get Drake May with the New England Patriots, who, by the way, folks, weren't planning to move out of that number 3 spot. Despite what was said, they made the price so ridiculously high. It was pretty obvious that they didn't want to move out of that pick. And of course, they go and they pick Drake May. So Joe Shane did get a trade offer to move down. I believe it was with the Colts, who were at 15. The Giants didn't want to drop down that far. And the reason for that is simple. Don't get cute. If you were talking a couple spots down, maybe Joe Shane might have moved. But you're talking what, a 9 slot drop at that point. He drops down 9 slots. He loses out on the big 3 receivers. There's no guarantee that Brock Bowers is there. It was just too big of a risk. And Joe Shane played it safe, despite the fact that he had plenty of needs, and there were needs that weren't addressed. Quarterback wasn't addressed. Interior defensive line wasn't addressed. Maybe adding another pass rusher wasn't addressed. But Joe Shane played it conservatively. All right. One other nugget, if you will, and this was revealed by head coach Brian Daboll in the post-draft press gathering that he had with the media and also shared it with Joe Shane. The Giants are going to bring in a quarterback for the spring, another quarterback. I don't know at this time who that is, but obviously Daniel Jones is going to be very limited if he's even able to do anything in the spring during the OTAs. So another quarterback is going to be brought in to help with, the distribution of, the passes and all that stuff. But the expectation is that quarterback may not make it to camp, whoever he might be. So, you're going to have at the rookie mini camp, you're going to have a bunch of guys trying out like you do every year. And I'm curious to see who some of these guys are. Remember, at the rookie mini camp, you can also have some veterans trying out, veterans who were not necessarily part of the the draft process or who haven't been on a team. So there's still more tinkering to be done with the rosters. As I record this, the draft is wrapping up. Then we're going to have the mad scramble for the undrafted free agents. So we'll see who the Giants come up with. But those are a few little nuggets that kind of came out. Now, I'm sure there'll be more that come out in the coming days. As I get them, I will share them with you, obviously. But overall, this draft class, I don't know how you guys and gals feel about it. I like it. I think it's a solid class on paper. But of course, on paper doesn't mean anything. We got to see what they do on the field. So, speaking of which, I believe on tomorrow's show, I will do grades. I will talk about fits. And then, like I said, as soon as I can get the college hosts scheduled, we'll start doing entire shows devoted to each of the picks wherever we possibly can. So I hope you will check all that stuff out because we're not slowing down here on the Locked On Giants podcast. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Thank you for your support over draft weekend. Really appreciate you guys and gals. And I will see you again tomorrow, Giant fans.